today in Ryan Holiday's The Daily Stoic. That's actually the title for today's entry is Protect Your Peace of Mind. And there's a quote from Epictetus, which I shared in the notes here on Substack. But I don't know how when Ryan Holiday and his co-author wrote that book, how many years ago was it? I knew this a few minutes ago, 11 years ago. How, writing it back then, how is it so timely today? Or maybe it's just timeless. Maybe the idea of goes all the way back to Epictetus, goes all the way back to the ancients, the Stoics. So I guess it's timely or timeless. I guess that's the answer. If they go any further than that, it is. It's hard with everything that we're faced with. And I said this earlier on Java with Jeff, but yesterday I made a mistake, I guess. I went over to Instagram actually to look for something. I wasn't really going over there to doom scroll, so to speak, but didn't realize what was going on yesterday in the news, and post after post after post is like everything in my feed, everything in everybody's stories, and I went down real deep into that rabbit hole, and that definitely was not protecting my peace of mind at all. I think it's a good example. I think it's a good lesson. We're faced with so many things, and we have choices. We don't have to go down that rabbit hole. At least I've been told. So I've been told. You don't have to go there. You don't have to go to Instagram. You don't have to do this, right? We have choices. We get to control who and what we give the power to. All of these things falling into the category of easier said than done, but since Scott and Nicole are here, I was told by a wise person who both of you know, basically the same thing as the Epictetus quote. I need to protect myself and do things that feed my soul. I think that's really smart advice for all of us. And it always amazes me how all these different topics we have day to day, and the sources are so random in a way. I mean, I have my usual places that I go to find the inspiration or the source material for any of these conversations, but ultimately they're pretty random, and they seem to tie together pretty well this week. And yesterday we were talking about Brian Kramer. It feels a lot colder out here than the temperature said. And there's ice. So yesterday we're talking about Brian Kramer and his question, right, for the vice president of the Fortune 500 company who had written down 11 top priorities. And he asked her, okay, well, if you got fired today, somebody else came in to do your job, which of those would still be top priorities? At that point, it dropped to 3, right? So basically, the question is what really matters, framed up in a more impactful way, maybe. And that's in her situation, right? That's straight up and down business scenario. That was the whole point, right? He's coaching this executive business executive coach, part of what Brian does. But and maybe, well, yeah, she did have a choice, right? She wrote down 11 things, and then when forced into figuring out what is really important, morning, hi, when she was forced to figure out what was really important, she said, "Well, these four are things that are quote unquote priorities that relate to strategies that we've pivoted away from." And for some reason, she chose to keep them as priorities. It didn't sound like, right, in the article that she was getting any pressure. Well, actually, we know she wasn't getting any pressure. Towards the end of the story, we find that out. So four were things that were related to old strategies. Two were other people's problems. And then two were things that she had just kept doing because no one told her to stop. And he said at the end of that story that, I forget what it was, what the time had passed was, but no one asked. No one realized, the ones that she stopped doing, the thing when she started focusing on what was really important and leading from what was really important, no one asked about the other things. So they had that focus. So Nicole says, Leah, lately I've had several people ask me to run for my HOA board again. I care about my community, but official involvement was not healthy for me. I don't even go to the HOA meetings anymore. There are other healthier ways to help people around me. Yeah, it's part of a conversation sort of this morning too, is just because well, we've talked about this here before, right? Just because just because you're good at something, because you can do something, because it falls into your professional realm, whatever. Lots of people will frame a lot of things in similar ways, right? Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Doesn't mean you're the person that has to be doing it. Doesn't mean it's healthy for you, right? It may be helpful to someone, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be healthy for you. And that's important, right? Whether or not it's healthy for you is ultimately more important. And anybody that's new around here, if you hear me say that and you go, wait a minute, that sounds very selfish. Like, if you start doing something for somebody else to help somebody else, that's fantastic. If it becomes unhealthy for you, this is a conversation for my mom. You want a hard case? Hey, my mom is 82. I think I did that right. My mom's 82. She's one of 11. There are four of the 11 still living. And you can imagine being, well, I guess that's an assumption. They grew up close. It's always, it's something of a different generation. It's everybody's going to help and help each other, all the way until the end, right? There's none of this you're on your own kind of thing. And, so anyway, mom's 82, and one of her older sisters is 89, I think. I have to actually look that up, but I think she's like 89, and her health is failing, all this. And mom has spent years now helping her. And that's a fantastic thing, right? So mom goes over to, she doesn't live with her, but she goes over to her apartment, and she takes her to doctor's appointments. She does all these things. And even to the point where she has these really long days of driving and physical things, and of course, mental, emotional things, all this this effort in the name of helping her sister, which is a fantastic thing, right? Taking care of your loved ones is a fantastic thing. And it turns out that it's not been very healthy for mom. Right? It wears her down. She's gotten sick. She's gotten hurt. And so she's had to pull back from that. That's not being selfish. Right? You have to take care of yourself. It's not that taking care of her sister is not important. But if she goes before her sister goes, then what? So anyway, on that front, I mean, we have to really determine what's important and what's important for us. And I said this earlier, and this, this was the advice that was given to me was, do things that feed your soul. Right? I talked about this a lot. I go back to it over and over. It's the yoga studio and things like that. It's or things that are said at the yoga studio. What is it? What do you need to leave at the door? What are the things that serve you and what are the things that don't serve you? Now, they may have served you last year. They may have supported you last year or a month ago, which technically was almost last year, but it doesn't mean that those are still the things. It doesn't mean that those things still serve you, that still feed you. And if they don't, right, if we're doing things that don't serve us anymore, that don't feed us anymore, then we're not protecting our peace of mind. May not even be protecting our physical self. That the HOA situation, and when I was reading it, it also reminded me of this conversation. The comment was that just because just because you aren't paying attention to every detail, that you're not up on it, that you're not completely immersed in it, doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean that that you're abandoning anyone, or that you're not supporting anyone or anything like that. I think I said this earlier too. Another comment was that maybe an accusation, but not really meant as an accusation. But it was, hey, you're really willing, you're really invested in helping and supporting other people, and you need to do that for yourself. And yeah, I did say this earlier. My back was, well, yeah, it's easier to take care and help other people. And I think that's a truth for all of us, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I think about it. It's when we were talking about Rick Rubin the other morning, and he's talking about sitting with ourselves and hearing, listening, feeling. Right? When you're helping somebody else, you don't actually have to do that. When you're helping someone else, you just, okay, what do you need? Right? How do I solve this problem? Maybe. But man, when it's ourselves, we actually have to sit and feel or walk and feel. I don't know. We have to feel. We have to hear ourselves. We have to understand it. That's hard for most of us. I think, I know I said this earlier. I don't know if it's most people or I don't know if it's a lot of people, but I think there are an awful lot of people in this world that don't know how they feel, that don't feel their feelings, that are not paying attention to themselves. I think in a lot of ways, I don't think we'd be where we are in this world if the opposite was the case, right? If everyone was really in tune and in touch with themselves and feeling their feelings and everything else, I don't think we'd be where we are in the world. Somebody brought it up on Java with Jeff about being too emotional, and I think, which I talked about that a little bit, and they said too reactive, not too emotional. Emotions are important, and feeling those emotions are important. I think of it like a bucket. I think there are a lot of people that something comes up, they're feeling a certain way, they, whatever, rather than feeling it, dealing with it, whatever, yep, okay, that's come up, I'm gonna throw that in the bucket. And then something else comes up and they throw it in the bucket. And something else comes up and they throw it in the bucket. And pretty soon the bucket's full. And then the bucket, they keep throwing stuff in the bucket. So the bucket has to overflow. And that's where the lashing out. That's where the reactionary comes from, right? That just the overflowing, because there's no space, there's no room anymore. If we don't protect our peace of mind, how do you spell that? P-I-E-C-E or P-E-A-C-E? If we don't protect our peace of mind, we run out of room. We don't create the room that's necessary, the space that's necessary to grow, certainly, but even to protect ourselves, our own mental, emotional, physical. So, let's see. I can't scroll. There it goes. Few of us have started putting together grassroots efforts, creating an official nonprofit. HOA board wants to create a committee for us. We told them no. Yeah. It's like, it's like a lot of organizations, right? No, I don't want to be under that because then I've got to deal with your bureaucracy. Action of the people. We don't want to muck it up with their politics. Yeah, I totally get that. Again, I don't know. I keep going back to this idea of space. Right? You start doing this to create something good, and you got all kinds of space around it because you created it's new. It's your own thing. It's on your own, but then to pull it into something like that. That space immediately gets filled up with the politics and the bureaucracy and the bullshit around it. Sorry for the terminology. Well, I made it to the coffee shop. Thanks for walking with me. Protect yourselves. Stay well. See you tomorrow.